This is the new Mini Cooper, and it's got really, really small shoes to fill. But not this original Mini, that one.
That is BMW's first go at reviving the Mini brand, and it's now old enough to be a modern classic. Its success was down to BMW really putting in the effort to make a 60s legend become an icon of the 21st century.
But have they become complacent, or is this 2024 car a fitting rebirth of a British icon?
To be a certified Mini, this new Cooper needs to have these three things. Fun styling that pays homage to the original Isagonis design, it needs to be frugal,
and most importantly, it needs to be fun to drive. But the outside has to be Mini, and yes, while this new one definitely has the silhouette of a Mini, next to the original reborn Mini, commonly referred to as the R50 by nerds like Ben, yeah, this one looks a little bit bigger. Although, having said that, it does look like the wheelbase of both these cars is near identical. So where most of the gains have come on this new one are up front. And yes, you can see that the headlight on this new F66 Cooper is bigger than the headlights on this smaller, daintier Frank Stevenson designed original BMW car. Plus, that car's telltale bulldog underbite has gone, and now we've got a much bigger fish mouth style gaping grille. And then, of course, the door mirrors are totally different. This one is way bigger than this lovely little one here. But I'm very happy to see that all the way back from this 2001 car, we've still retained this floating roofline here in a two-tone paint job. I forgot how cool the wraparound glass and hidden C-pillar design of the R50 was, although it hasn't been on Minis for years now, so no surprises to see that they haven't bothered to hide the C-pillar here at all. But they have brought in cool new tail lights, which have a nod to the Union Jack, although I cannot believe that the beer can-inspired tailpipe that's featured on Mini since that Frank Stevenson one, well, it's not here at all. There is no visible exhaust pipe on the Cooper. Wow. Before we jump into that new Mini, let's go down memory lane and drive this R50, which I have to say still feels in 2024 like a modern car. How did they achieve that all those years ago? I don't know. But it feels like a Mini made for the 21st century because it's dainty on the road, and yet it rides and it steers really swiftly. Plus, this little 1.6 litre engine doesn't have a turbocharger, but it's really responsive. And when it's matched to this 5-speed manual, well, then it feels really reactive and it revs very nicely. Plus, it genuinely feels like a go-kart around the bends. They have managed to capture the magic of the original, but then they just sprinkled some BMW quality onto it.
And if you like having fun behind the wheel, make sure you check out cinch.co.uk or download our app, where you'll find plenty of choice when it comes to Minis and everything else.
So now it's time for the new Mini. Can it keep up that magic? On first impressions, the car does all the right things. Firstly, it feels dainty on the road. Okay, it's definitely a little bit wider, but it doesn't feel wide for a UK road. And also that upright windscreen really gives you the impression that you're in a Mini. Plus the seating position, while it's not quite as low as that original one and not quite as sporty therefore, it's still pretty low, and the view around me is good. I feel like I'm fully in control of this car, even on a narrow British B road. It's also very easy to drive. I mean, visibility is great. Those bigger door mirrors, while they're not as pretty as the original cars, they provide excellent visibility. And if that's not enough, well then this car has, dare I say it, the best reversing camera quality I have seen on a car in maybe the sub 50k bracket. Honestly, the crispness of the camera is so good that when it rains, you can see the individual droplets falling. So it means you can place this car with ease. But most importantly, what matters is that it does all of those things. It's easy to live with and easy to drive in town, but that it's also fun like a proper Mini. And while this thing is quick, 156 horsepower is produced by its turbocharged 3-cylinder engine. It's smaller than the original reborn Mini with a 1.5, but because it's blown, it now has the torque and the enthusiasm, and it genuinely gets up and goes. It's not gonna tear your head off your neck, but my God, it's more than quick enough for UK roads. That's demonstrated by that slight jump there. You don't get a manual gearbox in this car, which is really disappointing actually. This Cooper has no shift paddles either, and it means I'm relying entirely on the gearbox to control what gear to be in. And that is great fun when you just want to cruise along and just steer a bit, but when you really want to be engaged like you were in that R50, well yeah, it's a big negative. But thankfully the gearbox is quick to shift, and Also, thankfully, you do have drive mode, so you can kind of tweak it so that it reacts more responsively. But I guess what matters most in a Mini is how it handles, and thankfully, this thing really does get around corners. There's nothing in the way of steering feel, but the steering is light, and actually the car itself does feel nicely communicative. What I'm getting is that sensation of the front axle being the one in control and the back axle just about hanging on. Just how I like it. That's proper Mini stuff. Here's a bend. Let's chuck it in. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing now, is the weight of the car is what takes away from the real essence of Mini driving. That R50, it feels so light on its tippy toes, whereas this definitely is leaning into the weight a bit more. The balance is the same. The front of the car is the better place for grip, but it's not quite as hyperactive or reactive as that older car.
Where the F66 has made real progress is in its ability to be comfortable and sensible, so motorway miles are easier than ever, and the ride is genuinely decent for such a small car in 2024.
And this interior is also a real triumph of design and technology in 2024. And this infotainment system is fantastic and it's my favorite, but I'm going to tell you why in just a moment. First, let's talk about the sensible stuff. Now, this is a small car, obviously, but it does have a few areas of practicality, not least a big open space here because we don't have a gear lever anymore. So you've got a load of storage space down there, two really generous cup holders, and my favorite technology piece down here, which is a little area to store your phone with a belt as well, so it doesn't slide around, and that keeps it pressed up against the wireless charging mat, so it won't be sliding around and going on and off, which is so annoying in other cars. Then you've also got decent sized door pockets down there, and I can demonstrate my bottle fits in fine. And you also get a generously sized glove box. Like, genuinely, in this day and age when everything's got small glove box, that is really good. And my favorite thing in this interior, apart from that, is this, the starter switch. And I love the fact that it harks back to the original Mini, like the 1959 one, where you would put your key in there and then turn the car on or off. Here, it's a fixed bit of plastic, but it gives you that tactile feeling. And it somewhat makes up for the fact that you no longer have those cool chrome switches that you did on previous cars, including the R50. And that's because chrome is a high CO2 manufacturing process. So this interior is much more sensible. That's also why you don't get leather on the dash. You've got this fabric, but the fit and finish and the feel is top notch, and I really like it. But this is the star of the show for me here because it just feels so different to anything else in any class. Firstly, it's a circular screen, 240mm across, and it uses the full width of the screen. Plus, all of the graphics and all of the controls in there are unique to the Mini. So it's fun, it's funky, and it's youthful. And even Apple CarPlay and Android Auto fill the screen, so the wallpaper will expand across so it feels like it's designed for it. But that does actually mean that you've got your climate control buttons on the touchscreen permanently accessible. They're not perfect because it does take 2 taps to do 1 temperature change, but they are pretty good. And overall, this system just goes with the vibe of the car. It is fun and it's youthful.
The rear is technically big enough for the legs of 6'3"ers, but this car's panoramic sunroof means it's not tall enough for them. Not at least for Ben, anyway.
At least the boot is technically large enough for a family-sized suitcase. This is a Mini, but it swallows our big bag, although we do have to remove or lower the boot floor to allow that. But the fact that it has one is something that wasn't true on older Minis. So yeah, this is a usable space, and if you need more room, it's very easy to fold down this 2-part rear bench, and it even goes flat down there. Very nifty. So this new Mini is definitely a Mini in many ways, but it's one that's less engaging and not as sharp as its predecessors. But in 99% of driving scenarios, the interior quality and the tech of its cabin means it is easily my favorite car of this class. Although, if you prefer your Minis much bigger, you should get watching this video over here while I go for a drive.